Hi everyone, this week's video will be a little bit longer than future videos because there's quite a bit of foundational information to cover. I just wanted to give you a heads up before you start watching. In this lesson, you'll learn the definition and elements of a rhetorical situation and will be introduced to an overview of the first major writing project of the semester. Let's get started. Before defining a rhetorical situation, I want to show you that in many ways you already understand how to rhetorically read different text and images. Take a look at this fact sheet for health providers about treatment guidelines for COVID-19. This document may not be appealing to most of us, and we probably wouldn't choose to read the entire thing. It uses words that maybe we're not familiar with, and it just doesn't look very appealing. But that doesn't make it a bad document. We're just not the intended audience for it. Healthcare providers who need and understand this information would find the design, the bullet points, and the language of this document to be very effective at communicating the information. Let's look at another example. This image and text is also about a similar topic, COVID-19, but this one is intended to explain the virus to children. Therefore, the creator is using bold colors and images to appeal to children and to effectively communicate to them. It's more appealing for that audience and is using a simpler design. Now that we've seen some examples of rhetoric, let's define some terms that will help us. Rhetoric, as defined by the Oxford English Dictionary, is the art of using language to persuade or influence others. All writing is rhetoric, whether it's a Nike ad, an essay that you're writing for college, or even Taylor Swift's newest album cover. All of these are texts created by specific authors to persuade or to influence someone. Maybe we're trying to persuade someone to agree with our argument, or to influence them to buy Nike products, or even to listen to the album. Rhetorical simply means crafted in a certain way to produce a desired effect. When we understand writing in this way, it doesn't make sense to judge writing as good or bad, but instead we need to analyze it as what is effective or ineffective in a given situation. To analyze any piece of communication, whether it's written using words, verbal, being spoken, or visual using images, it requires a thorough understanding of the situation that produces it, just like the examples we looked at on the previous slides. Now that you understand what rhetoric is, let's talk about rhetorical situations. A rhetorical situation is any situation in which someone is communicating, and it consists of several different elements: audience, purpose, genre, stance, medium, and design. We're going to be using these elements all summer as you create your own text, but specifically, we'll be practicing analyzing the rhetorical situation of images for our first project. So let's look at each of these elements a little bit more closely. The audience of a text is simply the person or people that the writer is intentionally trying to influence or persuade. When analyzing the audience of a piece of writing or a text, here are some questions to consider. So first, identify who the speaker or the author is writing to or creating for. Are you personally part of that intended audience? Why or why not? How much does the audience, the intended audience, already know about the topic? Do they have pre-existing beliefs or opinions about it? What is the relationship between the author and the audience? Is it a more formal relationship, as in a teacher and a student? Or is it more familiar, two friends or two people who have the same beliefs and ideas? The purpose of a text explains why the writer is creating their text in the first place, whether it's a document of words or images, whether it's an ad, a movie poster, or an Instagram post. What is the author trying to accomplish? What do they want the audience to do, to understand, to feel, or believe? I do want to point out that an author may have multiple purposes for their document. They may be trying to inform and persuade at the same time, for instance. The word genre just means a category system. It's how we identify what something is. So is it a movie poster, an advertisement, an informational essay? Each genre has certain rules about what it should look like and how it works. The writer then has to work within those constraints, or sometimes they subvert expectations by challenging the rules of that genre. So you'll want to make sure that you're paying attention to what the genre is, so that we can identify, is the author effectively working within those constraints. Next is stance. Stance relates to the writer's or speaker's attitude toward their topic. It is often informed by their beliefs, their ideas, and maybe even the research they've done. It's often linked to the tone they are using. And what position they are working from. So there's lots of examples in your textbook. You can find them on page 67 to find more specific examples of stance, and we'll be talking more about it in the coming days. Then finally, the last element of a rhetorical situation is medium and design. The medium and design is how the author conveys their message. Are they using images, words, particular fonts and layouts, colors, etc.? Design affects the way that we understand the message. This summer, we're going to begin by paying a special attention to the design of images. Now's a good time to talk about our first major writing project this summer. It's going to be a visual analysis essay. The first project asks you to examine an image, whether it's an advertisement, book cover, or movie poster, for what that image and its accompanying text reveal about the cultural values of the creator and intended audience, and how it might influence that audience's actions and belief. What I'm asking you to do as a critical reader is to go beyond a surface level reading of an image and present something about that image which may not be readily apparent and cannot be simply described. Your essay should offer a rhetorical analysis of the image itself, the accompanying text, the subtext, and the context, all of which we're going to be learning more about. Next week, you're going to be practicing analyzing images that you will be choosing from for your visual analysis essay, and you're going to learn more about the process. But for now, these are the questions you're going to ask as you begin exploring what the images communicate. Notice that many of these questions are driven by the rhetorical situation we just defined, and they require you to understand the image's purpose, audience, genre, and design. All of these questions can also be found on your Project 1 assignment sheet. Speaking of the project assignment sheet, you should carefully read that assignment sheet in this week's module, but here are the basic requirements for the essay. So your audience will consist of yourself, me, and your classmates. We see images and advertisements every day, and it's almost so natural that we don't pay attention anymore. We don't often critically challenge the images and text we see. But critical literacy demands re-seeing things that feel or seem normal or natural. Therefore, the greatest and most rewarding challenge in analyzing your chosen images is to denaturalize the natural. So in other words, you're going to be conveying to your audience something new and different about the image that maybe they didn't see initially. You're going to want to provide a strong and accurate description of the image. Be sure also to offer strong transitions between paragraphs to provide an introduction that captures your audience's attention. The essay will be 4 to 5 pages, double-spaced, Times New Roman 12-point font in MLA format, and will have 1-inch margins on all sides. The due date for the essay is June 18th by 11:59 p.m. Next week, we're going to dive deeper into looking at specific images, and you'll have the chance to practice. For now, be sure to work through your weekly module very carefully, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions at all.